moment in time, you're currently under arrest for making off without payment. You don't say anything,
but I haven't made off.
We don't mention one question to the little line court. Anything you do is maybe give evidence.
But I haven't made off though.
Welcome to Review the Audits, where we put misconduct on display, explore police and legal content, protect rights, and demand accountability. This episode is brought to us by Audits. Be sure to check the link below, subscribe to his channel, and give him the credit he deserves. In this episode, Auditor stops at a BP petrol station to fill up and attempts to pay with a £20 coin issued by the Royal Mint, which is legal tender in the UK. But instead of a straightforward transaction, staff refuse to accept it and call the police. What should have remained a civil matter quickly escalates when officers arrive and, rather than de-escalating the situation, proceed to arrest despite no crime having been committed. That reckless decision comes back to haunt them, as takes the matter to court and has recently walked away with a substantial payout.
It's a £20 coin.
Never seen them in my life.
So it's from the Royal Mint, so the same place that all legal tender comes from.
Have you got any other means of payment at the minute?
I don't know. Right. Can I ask why you didn't tell me before you started recording?
So when we go to any incident, our tour of duty and our police protocol is to video every incident we go to achieve the best evidence.
But you've got to notify the person at the first available opportunity.
No, we don't.
You do.
Have you got that from somewhere? Have you read that up somewhere? Or?
Yes, your policy. Yeah.
Okay. Well, at the minute, we're obviously videoing everything because we've been called to an incident. Immediate response where there's some ongoing issue with payment, whether it's a domestic...
999?
Well, that's what's coming as, yeah.
Wow.
Well, we just didn't know what was happening. There was an altercation in the shop, so we've arrived on that instance. Are you going to give me your name?
I'm not, no.
Right, okay. Because is there a reason for that?
Because it's a civil matter, and it's not something that the police can get involved in.
To a degree, you're right. It is a civil matter. We can deal with it a different way, but obviously, ultimately, you haven't paid for your fuel.
From the moment she arrives, the officer demonstrates how unfit she is to deal with the situation. The auditor immediately notices her body-worn camera and asks why she has not declared it. The guidance on this point is crystal clear: officers must inform members of the public that they are recording at the earliest opportunity. Instead of acknowledging that requirement, she flatly denies that it exists. Her next move is just as concerning. She presses the auditor for his name, but this is not a criminal matter. It is a civil dispute between him and the petrol station. There is no legal basis to demand identification where no offense has been committed. The officer either did not know this or chose to ignore it, both of which are unacceptable for someone wearing the uniform.
But they're not accepting that money.
But that's up to them to accept it. If they decline...
They've obviously run the post office and they've declined that. Ultimately, it's a civil issue, but if you're not willing to give us your details, then how do we know that you're going to resolve the civil issue at a later date? If you're happy to give us your details, then we can look at the civil issue at a later date.
But that's a civil issue, that's nothing for the police to get involved in.
But we don't know your details, do we? So you could technically escape from here and never come back and never deal with that issue, then you'd be circulated as wanted for that, won't you, for making off without payment?
That's not a police issue at the minute.
It is. It is a police issue because you've not paid for fuel. So there's still an offence there of that you've not paid for your fuel.
But I have paid. I've gave them...
But you've gave them this coin, yeah, which ultimately they've spoke to the post office and they've decided that it's not a reasonable amount of payment for your fuel. So at the minute we're sort of hands are tied, yeah, agree with you on a certain instance of that, but we still need a solution today, whether we take your details and we deal with it at a later date.
From her own mouth, the officer admits it is a civil dispute, then attempts to invent a power to demand identification so that it can be resolved later. That is not how policing works. If there is no suspected offense, there is no power to compel personal details. She cannot turn a private payment disagreement into a police-enforced ID check simply because the retailer is unhappy. When she says, "You could be circulated as wanted," it is pure bluff. Wanted markers are reserved for criminal matters, suspects, warrants, or failures to appear, not civil contract disputes. Threatening a criminal designation to coerce compliance is a misuse of authority and an admission that she had no lawful footing from the outset. If she genuinely believed a crime might be involved, she would have had to consider the elements: dishonesty, making off, and intent to avoid payment. Here, the auditor remained at the scene, attempted to pay, and disputed the method of payment. That is classic civil territory.
So basically, he's trying to pay with this. They've run the post office and said that it doesn't really exist, you can't pay with that. He obviously won't give us our details. I've explained to him to a degree it's a civil matter. However, if he does make off and he doesn't give us our details, we're struggling for any sort of civil issue at a later date. Any details and making off without payment, So I've explained if he does give us his details and we know where he is and we can contact him at a later date, hopefully this issue can get resolved. He's obviously not really
can't
wanting to do that at the minute,
Because
are
it's
you?
a civil issue and it's nothing for the police to get involved
But
in.
you're still going to make off, aren't you? Technically without payment, but if we can get your details,
But I have paid.
but you haven't.
And it is their policy to accept the £20 coin.
Have you?
How's it
Has he
their policy?
paid?
No, he hasn't.
Right. If you haven't paid, and if you walk out the door now,
They've
then
still
you're
got,
li-
they've still got the money though.
Just
Pound
let,
there. Well, whatever you
just
say
let me
that is.
finish. If you
Yeah.
walk out that door now, you are liable for an arrest because we don't have your details.
But you don't need them
Well, I do
because it's a civil issue.
but it's not, because a make off without payment is then a police.
The second officer enters and immediately makes the situation worse, jumping straight to threats of arrest. That is absurd. The auditor was still inside the premises, making no attempt to leave, and openly disputing the payment. There is no making off without payment, because he had not left, and there was clearly no intent to avoid paying. What makes her threat even weaker is the fact that the auditor had already attempted to pay with a £20 Royal Mint coin that the cashier refused to accept. That alone destroys any suggestion that he was trying to avoid payment. Under the Theft Act, both the act of leaving and the intent to evade payment must be present. Neither existed here. By twisting the situation into a criminal matter simply because she could not obtain his details, the officer exposed a complete lack of understanding.
So if you walk out that
No,
door
it's
now,
not.
you know what it is. If you walk out that door now, you'll be getting arrested for make off without payment.
But there is an agreement with BP that
Is there,
the
any other
coin can be
way, is
used.
there any other way that you can pay? Because we're going to sit here for hours arguing. I've been quite respectful to you. I appreciate you have to a degree, and I appreciate that from yourself. You haven't been argumentative with me, and I appreciate that you've been a normal human being.
No,
However, we need
I don't
a
intend to.
solution.
No.
No, I
If
appreciate
you
that.
can pay for the fuel now by other means, then that's fair enough. It'll be the end of the matter.
Or if you can give us your details and we can deal with it at a slower time, we can offer you that. But if you're not willing to do either any, then we're struggling with what we have left to do.
Because we can't let you walk out that door without paying. But
We don't know where you live, you might not even be from around here, I'm not saying you are, but you know what I mean, we have people where they'll make off and then they won't give us our details and then we're going to struggle. I'm still going to have that £20 of fuel, unfortunately, with this BP garage outstanding.
Which car is it?
But I have paid for the fuel.
But you haven't paid for the
haven't
fuel.
paid for
Which
fuel.
one?
Right, we're going round in circles, aren't we?
We are, unfortunately, yeah. We've agreed, we've reasoned with you now, and we've tried to say that if you give us your details, just tell you where you live, we'll deal with it slow time. However, you then leave, you don't have your details, you don't know where you live, you could live in London for all we know, and then there's still this making off without payment because they will not accept this as payment.
But I don't have to identify for a civil issue.
It technically isn't a civil issue though, is it, when you leave and you don't pay? You haven't paid for your fuel. We've got the payment here, which isn't acceptable, so really you haven't paid at the minute.
The entire exchange rests on a false premise. The officers repeatedly warn, if you leave, as though the auditor is about to run off without paying. But that moment never arrived. He was still inside the store, still engaging, and had already attempted to pay with a Royal Mint coin. They were not responding to his actions, they were responding to a scenario they had imagined. That is not law, it is fiction. And the claim that they could not establish who he was without forcing identification is just as weak. His number plate was outside, providing a lawful and immediate way to confirm details if they genuinely believed it was necessary. Instead, they ignored that option and doubled down on demands they had no power to make, twisting a civil disagreement into grounds for arrest. They were not resolving the problem. They were inflating it.
Well, I have, because I've handed the coin over.
Right.
So I haven't got that in my possession, and I've contacted BP head office before coming here.
Right, and was that today then, or?
No,
So when was that then? So you've contacted BP head office before you've come in?
correct.
Right, so did you contact them today, or was it yesterday, or last week, or?
It's not up to me to say that.
How's it money?
Do you understand what the £20 coin is?
No, that's why I'm confused.
Well, why are you threatening me for arrest then, if you don't know?
Because it's not money.
It is.
Right. We'll agree to disagree. At the end of
You
the-
don't know that. It is. It's
Right.
legal tender, the same as a £20 note and a £10 note.
Right, and who did you speak to from the BP garage, the manager?
It's a Royal Mint who issued that £20 coin.
Right.
So it's the same money as any other money.
If you get someone on the phone to me who you've spoken to earlier, then we could kind of end the matter here, can't we?
But if it's a civil
you're not
issue, I
willing-
don't need
but
to
at the minute
assist you.
But at the minute we don't know it's a civil matter.
But I don't need to assist you in a civil issue.
But you do, because it then turns into a police matter because we don't know that kind.
The auditor had already done more than enough by pointing out that BP themselves had confirmed the coin was valid. That should have ended the matter immediately. Instead, the officer turns it into a demand, insisting that he call them directly or it becomes a police issue. That is absurd. He had no legal duty to assist her in that way, and refusing to do so does not magically create a criminal offense. The role of the police is to assess the facts and apply the law, not to shift the burden onto the citizen to prove themselves. Her follow-up comment, "We don't know that coin," only weakens her position further. A £20 Royal Mint coin is legal tender. If she and her colleagues do not recognize it, that is their problem, not the auditor's.
If
You're
it's a civil
running the risk of
agreement,
being arrested because you haven't given us details, and you're going to walk out that door, and it's technically a failure to pay.
but then it'll be a
Make up
civil.
for that payment.
But then I'll sue you.
Well, that's
So,
fine. If you want to sue us, that's fine.
unlawful
But
arrest.
like I said, we've been honest with you in terms of which way we can go. The staff here have been very honest, okay? And all I'm saying
Well, he
is, if you
hasn't.
get the person on the phone who you spoke to earlier with the agreement, then that could be the end of the matter. But
you
as
know-
far as I do, then technically, if you walk out the door, there's going to be a make without payment.
He's already accepted to take it.
You haven't accepted to take it. No, haven't accepted to take it. You walk out that door, becomes a criminal matter, and you get arrested for make off without payment.
Or you give us your
because
details.
You're refusing to give us your
From there.
details, and we don't know that that vehicle is yours because you're not.
But I've told you
Is it urgent?
that he said he would take the coin
But he isn't now, is
if
he?
I take my mask off.
Right, well I wasn't here for that, so we have no witnesses, unfortunately, other than you and him. Right now I can't view that.
Body camera.
But right now I can't view that. At the end of the day, you've come in, you've paid for
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
got your fuel, you've come in. This isn't a payable matter. Once you leave, we've offered you to give us your details and deal with it that way. For all I know, that vehicle could be registered to somebody else and lived in London. And how are we ever going to trace you?
But I don't
Once
need
you
to
leave
assist
the
you.
situation, it is making off without payment. I can't be any more reasonable with you and give you some sort of options that we can go
But I
with,
don't
but you're
need
still
to assist
refusing
you.
to. Are you offering to give
Because
the
you're
staff,
wrong.
not myself, not my colleague, the staff your name and contact number?
No.
Right, so we have one option, but two will lock you up then.
Well, I've got a civil agreement in the
No, no,
background.
no,
Fine, you
no,
can,
no,
you
So-
can prove that
You
at
can
court.
prove-
I've
Yeah,
got
prove that at court
That's
then.
fine. You can prove that
Yeah?
at court.
Right, well this moment in time, you're currently under arrest for making off without payment. You don't
I
have to
haven't-
say anything,
but I haven't made off.
defense. We don't mention one question to the later line court. Anything you do is maybe given evidence.
But I haven't made off
Necessity
though.
for your arrest is reported in factual investigation. Okay?
But I haven't made off.
That you're under caution as well.
Mind you, the fact that you failed to provide details.
But I haven't made off.
Failed to provide details, yeah.
But I haven't made off.
Right, are we going to go calmly? We're going to go quietly?
We would go calmly all the time.
Okay, well, do you want to walk with us then?
Of course.
Thank you. Just come with me, sir, please. Have you got anything in your pockets that's going to harm me or you? Just take them out. It's just a question we ask everybody.
Can we just take your camera off as well, please?
This is where the entire situation tips from incompetence into outright abuse. The officers arrest the auditor for making off without payment while he is literally standing inside the store telling them, "I haven't made off." That single line alone should have ended the matter. The offense requires someone to actually leave without paying. He had not left, he was not attempting to leave, and he made that explicitly clear. Yet they pushed ahead with the arrest regardless. Legally, it does not get more indefensible than this. The Theft Act sets out two key elements, the act of leaving and the intent to permanently avoid payment. Neither existed here. The auditor had already offered a valid form of payment and was still actively engaged in the dispute. The offense they claimed simply did not exist at that moment, and they knew it. Now, Auditor I Spy gives an update on his claim.
About 10 months ago, I walked out of those gates after being falsely arrested for using a £20 coin. The Chief Constable has paid out £4,000 in compensation, but unfortunately he did not apologise at any point, even taking him to court. He went all the way to court, we had the hearing date, and then the Chief Constable saw some sense and paid £4,000 in compensation, but no.
The case was taken to court, and the auditor walked away with a substantial £3,999 payout, plus legal costs. That is not pocket change. It is a serious sum of money for something that should never have happened in the first place. It shows just how weak the police position was once their actions were placed under legal scrutiny. They knew they could not defend it, so they had no option but to settle. But what makes this even more damning is that, according to the auditor, the chief constable, the head of the force, never once offered an apology. Thousands of pounds of taxpayer money were handed over, wrongdoing was acknowledged through a financial settlement, yet they could not muster the basic professionalism to admit fault. That silence speaks volumes. It reveals a culture where saving face matters more than accountability, and where public trust is treated as an afterthought. This case is a clear example of how the smallest situations can spiral into full-blown misconduct when officers do not understand the law they are meant to uphold. A simple civil dispute over a coin, something that should never have involved the police in the first place, turned into a wrongful arrest because ego and authority replaced common sense. That kind of escalation is not policing. It is bullying in uniform. What makes it worse is the way officers invented their own justifications as they went along. They repeatedly asked, "What if you walk out without paying?" even though the auditor never once indicated he would. They built their entire case around a scenario that existed only in their imagination. That is not enforcing the law. It is twisting reality to create grounds that were never there. The behavior also points to a deeper cultural problem. intimidation being used as a shortcut for policing. Instead of resolving the issue with patience and knowledge, they went straight to threats, detention, and ultimately arrest. When officers rely on fear instead of facts, it is not just the individual involved who loses. It erodes the public's trust in the entire system. Because if this can happen over a coin, it can happen over anything. And then there is the aftermath. Nearly £4,000 of taxpayer money paid out, yet not a single word of apology from the chief constable. That silence is not just arrogance. It is an admission that they would rather bury a mistake with money than confront the failure. It shows exactly where the priorities lie, protecting the image of the force, not correcting the behavior of its officers. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me continue with my independent coverage. Also, don't forget to check out I Spy Audits. His channel is linked in the description. Show him some support. Thanks for watching. This was Review the Audits, and I'll see you in the next one.